After Gakira Barnes' death, a documentary was filmed about her life and the deadly life the people in Chicago are living. Vaughn was interviewed during this documentary, and he claimed that he misses K.I.
When you tweeted once, you said you miss her.
Yeah. Because we used to be talking on the phone. Like, that's somebody, like, say somebody you DM and talking to, and then one day they just gone. Now you like, damn, who the f I'm gonna talk to now?
Little did they know that the same person who claimed he misses that 17-year-old girl is the same person who snatched her life away. King Von's story is intertwined with that of Gakira Barnes, also known as K.I., in the most unexpected way. Just 17 years old, K.I. was one of the most notorious and deadly gang members in Chicago, allegedly involved in at least a dozen murders. But she wasn't the only one. King Von's story was no different. K.I.'s life was cut short in April of 2014. According to quite recent documents, it was Vaughn who did it. Their stories highlight the harsh realities of life in inner-city Chicago, where young people are forced to navigate a world of poverty, violence, and desperation. We'll take a closer look at the lives of King Von and K.I., their rise to notoriety, and the tragic events that led to their untimely deaths. This is the story of King Von and how he took out one of the most feared 17 gangsters of Chi-Town and got away with it. Davon Bennett, more prominently known by his rap name King Von, was born on August 9, 1994 in Chicago. He grew up in Parkway Gardens, a housing complex on the city's south side that's been plagued by gang violence and poverty. King Von's affiliation lay with a gang called Tukaville Young Money Boys, or TYMB, and had been involved in criminal activity since his early teenage years.
I be speeding, could have been a driver, the way I pushed the whip.
King Von began his music career in 2018 and quickly gained a following with his raw and honest lyrics. His breakout hit, Crazy Story, was based on a real-life incident in which he survived a shooting that left 2 others dead. The song helped propel him to fame, and he went on to release several successful projects.
After 3 homes.
And then once again we get up to the corners.
On the other hand, Gakira Barnes, or sometimes K.I., was also from Chicago, but she grew up in the Woodlawn neighborhood on the south side. K.I. was reportedly involved in gang activity from a young age and was affiliated with a gang called Streets of the Low End, or STL. Despite their different affiliations, King Von and K.I. shared similar experiences growing up in Chicago's dangerous and impoverished neighborhoods. Their life stories highlight the impact of systemic issues of poverty and a lack of opportunities, especially when it comes to the lives of young people growing up into adults. Vaughn and K.I. followed each other on Twitter, and they had several exchanges over social media. Even though the conversations between them seemed flirty and romantic, they were also mixed with death notes and threats. The relationship between them could be called passive-aggressive, but it was extremely complicated, to say the least. There was some chemistry going on, but nobody can really say if there were feelings between them or if it was psychological manipulation from either one of them. Op hoes get whooped on the train lacking. Think about it. One of the very first interactions between K.I. and Vaughn was on a train, where Vaughn allegedly physically hurt K.I. It was a known fact that K.I. was from the opposing gang and that there was no room for sympathy. K.I. did in fact confirm that she was run up on by Vaughn, but she also made it clear that she's not going to be intimidated nor afraid. She also let Vaughn and the rest of her ops know that she's got a gun that she's ready to use if things go south again. The back and forth between them would go on for a long time. They would communicate almost on a daily basis. The topics varied a lot, and for moments it made you wonder if Vaughn really had a crush on K.I. But every time the chat would become sentimental, one of them would draw a line. Often their conversations would end with threats, dissing dead homies, or provoking one another, calling them out for a fight. The situation escalated when both K.I. and King Von lost close friends from the block. This signaled a point of no return, and indeed, things were never the same since then. K.I. made fun of Von's deceased friend J Money, who lost his life while Vaughn was behind bars. Vaughn would get back at K.I. though, with a diss of his own, making fun of K.I.'s friends Modell and Crack, who both lost their lives as a result of gun violence. It's still under investigation what really happened Friday afternoon at the 6400 block of South Ebert, but neighbors say Barnes and her friends were walking along the sidewalk when a gunman started firing. When the bullet hit, it was so fast, she fell on herself. Circumstances surrounding K.I.'s death are somewhat murky, but according to news reports, she was fatally shot on April 11, 2014 at the age of 17. The shooting took place in the city's South Shore neighborhood, and K.I. was pronounced dead at the scene. There are varying reports about what led up to this shooting. Some sources suggest that K.I. may have been targeted by rival gang members, while others claim that she may have been involved in a dispute with someone she knew. There are some conflicting reports about King Von's potential involvement in the shooting of K.I. King Von was named as a suspect in the investigation into K.I.'s shooting by Chicago police in 2021. In the documents, it reportedly shows that witnesses have named Von as the alleged shooter. The document reportedly states, an unknown male wearing a gray hoodie and blue jeans approached the victims. The unknowing offender then produced a handgun and began firing in the direction of the victims, striking all three. The unknown offender was then observed entering an unknown vehicle, making good his escape. Devon Bennett was positively identified by the investigators. However, it also states in the document that there was not enough evidence to charge Vaughn with the killings, so they were not filed in the end. The official document says the analysis of the investigation supports the findings that the victim was killed by the listed offender, Bennett Devon. The CCSAO Felony Review Unit has reviewed the investigation, and although they concurred that the investigation positively identified the offender for reasons specified in the report, the CCSAO felt that they would be unable to meet their burden of proof in court. Therefore, the lodging of murder charges was rejected. Even though Vaughn was no longer a suspect in the case, he was locked up only a few months later for a different homicide case. This time around, he would wait 3 years in a cell before his trial starts. Vaughn made his way out of jail yet again. Somehow, he got away with murder and was released with charges being dropped. Following K.I.'s death, her community was deeply affected, with many mourning her loss and grappling with the ongoing issue of gang violence in Chicago. K.I. became something of a symbol of the challenges facing young people in the city, with her story serving as a reminder of the harsh realities of life in impoverished urban communities. Having left jail behind, Vaughn was picked up by Lil Durk, who he met behind bars. This is when Vaughn's music career began. Those two became friends and collaborators, with Lil Durk taking Vaughn under his wing and helping him develop his sound and style.
So please don't bring your hoe around me. I brush my teeth, then floss.
Apart from Crazy Story that we already mentioned, Durk helped Vaughn to establish him as a rising star in the Chicago rap scene. He followed up with several solo tracks, including War With Us and No Flaws, which showcased his unique style and storytelling ability. In 2019, Vaughn signed a record deal with Lil Durk's record label, Only the Family, and released his debut album, Grandson Volume 1. The album featured collaborations with Lil Durk and other rising artists in the Chicago scene, solidified Vaughn's status as one of the most promising young rappers in the game. But King Von's fame was very much short-lived, despite the expectations growing sky high. On November 6, 2020, King Von was involved in a shooting outside of Atlanta nightclub that left him and 2 others dead. The incident occurred after a physical altercation broke out between 2 groups, with Vaughn's group and another group of men exchanging punches and gunshots. Vaughn was shot and taken to a nearby hospital, but he later died from his injuries. The shooting was met with shock and sadness from the music community. Many of Vaughn's friends and collaborators expressed their condolences on social media. Fans also mourned his passing, sharing their favorite memories and songs in tribute to the late rapper. In the aftermath of Vaughn's death, his music and legacy continued to live on, with his posthumous album Welcome to O Block, released in 2021. The album featured collaborations with artists like Polo G, Lil Durk, and Dreezy, and debuted at number 13 on the Billboard 200 charts. Vaughn's death was a tragic loss for the music community and its fans, but his impact and influence continue to be felt in the world of hip-hop. The deaths of both King Von and K.I. are tragic losses of young lives. Their connection through social media and their hometown of Chicago only adds to the sadness of their passing. It's unfortunate that both of their lives were cut short due to violence, and that they'll never have the opportunity to fulfill their potential.
I done dropped that on that Welcome to O Block going crazy. I don't want to thank nobody, you know.
However, it's more important to remember the legacies that they leave behind. King Von's rise to fame as a rapper and his impact on the music community cannot be ignored. K.I.'s legacy as a young woman with a fierce determination to protect her community and seek justice for her loved ones should also be celebrated.
Turn up, turn up. That fearsome status was amplified by Jakira's outsized presence on social media.
As we reflect on the lives of King Von and K.I., let's remember them more than just victims of violence, but as individuals with unique stories and contributions to the world. May their memories serve as a reminder to work toward a future where senseless violence no longer claims the lives of our youth.